Hey, what's going on? My name is Alex and welcome to my channel. Some of you may know, but some of you may not. And back in the day, I used to be obese. I used to be extremely overweight. I used to weigh 365 pounds at my heaviest. And throughout my life, I've dropped down 135 pounds from at my heaviest to my lowest. And in this video today, I'm going to share with you exactly everything that I went through, from why I gained weight in the first place, why it happened, how I felt throughout the weight gain, and what actually clicked to make me start wanting to lose weight, and all the trials, all the struggles that I went through. And I want to share this information with you today so you can understand exactly what I went through and see how this may apply to your own life if you're going through the same thing yourself. So let me take you back to where it all began. So all my childhood life and my entire life, I've always been a bigger kid. Now, I'm from Ukraine originally, and back where I came from, we never had as amazing food choices as they have in America. So when we first immigrated to this country, I was around 7 years old. My eyes were open to a lot of the food choices that they have here. McDonald's, the amazing snacks, the sweets, the grocery store foods that you can easily buy. So my first instinct was to try all these foods. I wanted to try out all the delicious foods I never had before. But this is exactly why I started to gain weight even more. Most importantly, because I didn't know the repercussions of putting on eating all these foods. I thought that I can eat as much as I want to and there would be no consequences as a result. So slowly I started gaining weight. But also at the same time, I was going to school. I didn't know the language. I was always the outcast. I was always the weird kid wearing the strange clothing, the clothing that kids typically wouldn't see here. But that's the clothes that I had with me. So they used to pick on me, bully me because I didn't know how to speak the language. I was overweight. I was wearing these weird clothes, and I used to turn to food as a escape. I already felt separated because I felt not like every single other kid. And kids can be mean, they can bully other kids for whatever reason. And I just felt like I was very disconnected with everybody, but I always turned to food as an escape. And this happened over and over again to the point where I just started piling on the weight. Now, I was never a short kid. I'm 6'4", and I gained height pretty quickly in my childhood years to the point where I was always the biggest kid in class. And this all transpired all the way through high school. Now in high school, I was about 6'3", 6'4", I think. And I was always the biggest kid. People used to pick on me all the time. They used to, say you're big for nothing. Just all these kinds of things. And I used to separate myself from those people. And one of the things that I separated myself from people and turned to were video games. I used to play video games about 12 to 16 hours per day, because that was my escape. They allowed me to be somebody that I couldn't be in real life, and to be that person or that character inside the video game. So my favorite video game, my game of choice, was World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft allowed me to be somebody that I couldn't be in real life. Nobody knew me, nobody knew the way that I looked, and I felt freedom. I felt comfortable being around other people that had no idea who I was. So I excelled at that video game, but at the cost of giving up my time, giving up my health, because I used to eat uncontrollably while I was playing video games. I used to order food. My typical meal for breakfast was, let's say it was a sandwich with a giant sweet coffee with a bunch of creamer, or if it was lunch, I could easily put down 2-foot-long Subway sandwiches and maybe even 3 Big Macs, and just not even think twice about it. Being in New York, the pizza's delicious, so I always used to turn to pizza as the food of choice for dinner, for lunch, or whatever meal it might have been for me for that day. But I used to eat uncontrollably because I didn't feel like it had an effect on me, because I didn't realize the effect of food on the person's weight, but also at the way they feel. And in high school, I was at my heaviest. I was 365 pounds. And that's when I was part of a football team. Now, I wasn't a part of this football team because I was good. I was just picked to be a part of it because I was a big kid. I was 6'4", 365. So naturally, the coaches came up to me and said, hey, you're big, you can probably play or try to play. Do you want to be a part of the football team? So I said, yeah. And I sucked. I wasn't good at all. I was just a body. I was big for nothing. And I was extremely weak. And growing up and knowing that you're weak around all these other kids who are much stronger than you, but I was the weakest person there. It had a very negative psychological effect on me because I never felt like I was good enough. And specifically, there was one instance where we were in the weight room and we had a bench press test for the kids. So it was 135 pounds. It was not a lot of weight for most of the kids at that time, but it was a tremendous amount of weight for me. And I knew that I couldn't even pick up that bar once. I couldn't push it off my chest even once because I was so weak, but at the same time, I was the biggest kid there. So this kind of social anxiety was it came out during that time. I told my coach some kind of lie. I didn't tell him the truth. I just told him something. I actually forgot what it was, but it got me out of doing the bench press test. So I walked out of that room. I went home. I escaped my fear, and I kind of ran away from it because I knew that I couldn't put that weight up even once. And if I couldn't do that on that bench with everybody around me, the amount of social anxiety, the embarrassment that I would have experienced would just destroy me at that time. And this transpired over and over again. The bullying in school, people always picking on me for me being overweight. It just all started snowballing to the point where I didn't even look at the opposite sex and knew that I could even have a partner or have a girlfriend. And my first girlfriend was, I believe I was 23 years old because I never felt like I was good enough. But it got to the point where tying my shoes was extremely, extremely difficult. Just bending over and tying my shoes, especially in the summertime, I used to go out of breath. My face used to turn blue because I couldn't breathe. Carrying some grocery bags from the store to the house, I used to be drenched in sweat because I was so out of shape. Walking up a flight of stairs, I tried to avoid as much as I could because I knew that I would just be out of breath when everybody else would just be acting normal. But all these things made me a hermit in a sense. It made me a huge introvert. And it still stayed with me up until this point, but it has gotten a lot better. But the defining moment that actually made me lose the weight was my doctor's office visit. This one visit in particular. Now, before this visit, I used to always avoid doctor's offices as much as I could because I knew that being obese, being overweight, and just having the health of somebody much older than me was never good news at the doctor's office. So I tried to avoid them as much as I could. But I remember this one day in particular, I had to go to the doctor's office for a checkup. He sat me down and he said, "You're obese, you have pre-diabetes, you have a fatty liver, high triglycerides, you have extremely high blood pressure, and if you don't change something now, if you don't start losing weight immediately, you will not live to be 30. Now, that's not the news that I've ever heard, or it never even clicked to me back then that this has such a negative impact on me. So it was very devastating to me because I imagined myself missing out on all the things in life that I would not be able to experience if I was to die before I was 30. So I just told myself that, I told myself, Alex, you have to lose weight because you have to live a little bit longer at the very least. So I started to go on Google. I started researching everything that I could, and I tried just to lose weight in any way possible. I tried all the different things, all the diets, the gimmicks, the supplements, all the different, routines. But when I first started losing weight, the first thing I did was I started eating clean. So I started eating nothing but chicken, broccoli, egg whites, and I started doing a bunch of cardio. I used to do upwards of 2 hours of cardio per day. I used to go to the gym and just zone out, watch the TV, go on the treadmill, do the elliptical, maybe the bike, and that's all that I did. Now, I lost, I believe, about 70 or 80 pounds just doing that, but I felt so burnt out because I knew that I couldn't sustain this long term. It was just way too much. Plus, it was boring for me because when I lost the 70 or 80 pounds, I felt very skinny. I didn't fill out my shirts the way that I wanted to, and I felt like there has to be more to this. So I started going on Google again. I had no idea what I was looking for, but I found bodybuilding.com, and I just started looking at their exercises, the way to do different exercises. I got also the book, it's the Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I started just flipping through pages, looking at different exercises. Then I started to try them. Slowly I started, picking up weights, started experimenting with different kinds of exercises, different routines and stuff like that. I started to put on muscle. And over time, it made me feel much better about myself, and I started losing more weight and more weight. But eventually I hit a huge plateau. I was at this plateau for about 2 years. Now, when you're at a plateau and you have no idea what you're doing, you're just trying different things, it's very easy to get inside your head and just try to think, well, let me try something else. Let me try this completely opposite thing. And you start to get inside your own head to the point where you try things that you have no business trying. You know, I tried different diets, I tried different workout routines, starving myself. I created eating disorders as a result of that. You know, I used to starve myself, then binge eat, starve myself, and binge eat. And it was at this moment when I just had to pause for a little bit and just ask myself, why am I doing this? You know, weight loss shouldn't be the only focus that I have, because for the longest time, weight loss and losing weight was the only focus that I had in my own life. So I bypassed all the things that I enjoyed. I gave up all my favorite foods. I stopped eating carbs for a long period of time, although I love carbs, you know, who doesn't? But I had to realize, what's the bigger picture? Now, I can't live like this for my entire life. I can't live by means of restriction and eliminating all these foods from my life and just living in a way that you feel so restricted, like you're always on edge. So I had to understand nutrition differently. And I stopped restricting all the foods out of my life. I started enjoying more, going out more, and just having a good balanced lifestyle, and have weight loss be a part of that lifestyle. And that's where it all started to click. I started tracking my food more. I started tracking my physical activity more. And over time, it all started to go down as far as weight. It started to go down little by little. And the speed of the weight loss stopped being such an importance to me, because I knew that it will take time. And the faster that I lose it, the faster I will gain it back, because I will likely get to that weight loss goal by means of restriction if I lose it really quickly. So I started taking things slowly. And that's exactly the time where not only I started to track my nutrition and my physical activities, but I also started to do strength training. I fell in love with the gym after I started to try all these different exercises. But I tried different things, and I fell in love with building muscle and just getting stronger. So I started doing things like squats, deadlifts, bench press, all of these interesting exercises to me. And I started focusing on just putting on muscle and getting stronger, and make that be a priority instead of the weight loss. And over the years, my weight started to go down little by little. I started to put on more muscle and feel more confident in my own skin. But this took so much time. I could be sitting here and tell you I tried this one interesting product that got me to lose the weight and put on 50 pounds of muscle, but I'll be just lying to you, because the reality is it will take time. But not only time, but it will take setbacks. You may fail a few times. You may hit a lot of bumps in the road over your entire journey. But how you handle these setbacks, how you handle these bumps in the road, how you handle life just coming at you when it happens, because it will happen, and how you handle these points when they occur is what will ultimately determine your success. Because I can't tell you how many times I felt like giving up when I experienced these things myself. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like what I'm doing is completely wrong. I have no business even doing it. Just go back to what I was doing before, because it's not working for me. But I kept pushing. I kept trying different things. I kept, writing down what I'm doing so I can improve on it the next time. And I slowly started to understand what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And this ultimately took so many years. So if you're going through this journey by yourself, know that just because you hit a wall in the road, just because you hit a bump in your path, know that it's normal for it to happen. It will happen more times than you can imagine. In my own journey, it's happened dozens and dozens of times. But I know that it's all a part of it. But how you get through this, and if you get through this, is the determining factor of whether you reach your ultimate goal or whether you fall off and say, it's not for me, I have no idea why I'm doing this in the first place. But you have to understand that this will take time. Life will not just pause because you're on a weight loss journey, right? It will happen to you many times, but you gotta know that's all part of it. I just want to share this with you and just tell you my own personal journey from the start to the finish, and all the setbacks, all the ups and downs in the beginning. And if you like this video, if you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe, give me a thumbs up. It helps me out tremendously. And be sure to let me know in the comments what kind of other content you want to see from my channel. I really appreciate any kind of feedback, and I'll see you next time.